Good morning. Wow. Kim already has a go Kim exclamation point in the chat, bringing the 9:30 call energy here on this. Is it Tuesday? Tuesday morning? Uh,
Wednesday, Amy.
it's Wednesday. Welcome to the 9:30 call. If we had the weather watchers yesterday, if anybody got any kind of shovelable snow yesterday, added to the chat. Boston did not, but I was able to go to the Celtics game where I don't know. Oh, Clarence Little is here, but I don't know, Clarence, if your Yankee fandom transfers over to the Knicks, but the Celtics won in a great game last night. We're so happy to have Kim Dion here, and this is a good example of Kim Dion being on the 9:30 call, hearing people asking a lot about vouchers, and kind of offered to say, "Why don't I come on the 9:30 call and do an update?" So, Kim, we're so happy you're here. You should be able to share your screen. We know that you have, there are other folks from R&Rs across the Commonwealth here. So I'll turn things right over to you. And I'm going to turn my facilitation over to Marissa Fear. So I will be listening, but have to head out soon. So, Kim, over to you. Kim, do a quick, like, who you are. We know that you're a longtime listener, longtime caller here on the 9:30 call.
For sure. Joined the call back in March of 2020, one of the when we were just a small little group. I've been at Seven Hills Child Care Resources for coming up on 38 years. It's been a long time. It's been a lot of changes. The one thing I want to do is for sure give a shout out to my colleagues who have joined this morning. I can see Kelly, Corinne, Mary Beth is on, Barbara Bruker, the finest group of program directors that I've ever worked with. Everybody's super knowledgeable, and really happy to answer any questions. So we're really glad to have everybody on today. So if there are any questions specific to your region, you should have the folks that can answer those questions today. So I'm going to go ahead and share now. Let's see. Am I good?
Looks great.
All right. So, starting off with who we are. We are the Massachusetts Child Care Resource and Referral Network, and we are comprised of 6 independent agencies across the state. You can see us all listed here. Every community in the Commonwealth is served by one of the Child Care Resource and Referral agencies. This is our map, color coded, so you can see which agency covers which communities. And then this is the rates that providers get paid for accepting voucher children. So the top chart is for center-based programs, and you can see it's broken down. The first column is by what region you're in, and then it goes from infants all the way to family child care under 2 and over 2, and you can see the full day rate that you would be paid for a child in each of those age groups, and whether it's in a center, the child's in a center, or family child care. This is for full day, so anything 5 to 10 hours a day. And you can see the purpley color, Western, Central, and Southeast all have the same rate for an infant. It would be $105. The Metro region and the Metro Boston region are at $121. And then the Northeast is in the middle at 110. This rate is the total rate that you can be paid for a child. If you charge more than this rate, you cannot charge the difference to the family. You have to be willing to accept this rate. If you charge less than this rate, you're still going to get this rate. This is the regional max, and it's what you'll get. The bottom chart is for part-time care. So that's for anything under 5 hours a day. And it's basically 60% of your full day rate.
So Kim, just to reiterate, if you accept a child with financial assistance, these are the rates. So
These
this
are
is
the
what the
rates.
state is paying you. Just one clarification, it's not necessarily the cost. It is what the state is paying you. So
Correct.
that has come up a lot. So thank you for that.
Correct. And I will say EEC has done a really good job over the last few years with the growth in rates that the legislature has authorized to try to make sure that A couple of years back, for example, Western Mass rates were super low, much lower comparative to the market rate than other parts of the state. And EEC did a focused increase to try to get people up so that it's as equal as possible compared to the cost of care versus the market rate. So that's been a bit of a change in our state over the last couple of years. There's also, I did want to highlight, if anybody does transportation, one-way transportation, the state will reimburse at $12 per trip, and a two-way round trip would be at $18. There are some requirements to qualify for transportation, but there is some reimbursement if your program provides transportation.
The other thing, just and then I'm going to let you talk. The other piece is when we always talk about rate increases that the legislature gives us, that they put in the budget, and that has to be annualized. So, so to get these rates and keep them, we need that same amount of money to be added into the next year, and that can get very confusing during budget advocacy.
You are right about that. And it's worth noting that I believe there's $20 million in this current fiscal year for rate increase. These are the rates currently, but they are expected to, EEC is expected to roll out a rate increase that will be retroactive to July 1st of 2025 at some, thank you, Kelly, at some point this fiscal year. So the big question is, a lot of providers are showing a lot of interest in obtaining a voucher provider agreement because of the changes that are involved with the C3 grants this year, or that are about to happen with the C3 grants. So in order to obtain a voucher provider agreement, programs need to connect with their regional CCR&R. Like I said, every community in the state is covered by one of our 6 programs. We all work really closely together. We try to be as cohesive and consistent as possible across the state. And so we all follow the same basic process, but there may be some slight tweaks depending on whether you're contacting Kelly at Childcare Choices in Boston, or Corinne at Childcare Circuit in Lawrence, or if you're calling us or some of our friends down in the southeast part of the state. But all programs have to attend an orientation before being eligible to accept vouchers. And programs can either be licensed by EEC, or there are some programs that are exempt from licensing that are eligible for voucher agreements. The orientations are all held virtually, although I know some of my colleagues have talked about if somebody really wanted to come in person, they would try to accommodate that. Much more often than not, we have folks preferring to do the orientations virtually. All of our regions offer orientations in English and Spanish. And if you reach out, if you need it in another language, reach out to your CCR&R and find out what other languages can be offered by that particular program. For licensed programs, after you attend the orientation, the following documents need to be submitted to the R&R. There's going to be a voucher agreement that we're going to send you, and it goes through all of the requirements of participating in the voucher program, and you need to sign off on that agreement. That'll come back to the R&R. We will also sign off on it and get you a copy back. There's going to be a contact form with just information about your particular program. Who do we talk to about enrollments, about billing, all of those kinds of things. We need a W-9. We need your closure schedule. We need a statement about what your private pay rates are. We need a copy of your handbook. We need a work-life systems form, and this is a form that we will send to you. Work-life systems is the program that we use. It's our database that we use to provide childcare referrals to families looking for a childcare provider. So all providers have to complete that form, so we have updated, accurate information in our database to hand out to families. We'll be looking for a direct deposit authorization form, your EEC license, and if you do provide transportation, there is a transportation addendum to the voucher agreement that would also need to be completed and sent back to us. And we just want to note that attending the orientation is the first step. Until we have all of these documents and everything is signed by both the R&R and the provider, we can't write a voucher to your program. Once everything is signed, you'll get copies of everything. You'll become active in our child care financial assistance system. And at that point, we're able to write a voucher for you. We cannot backdate vouchers to dates before a provider agreement is in place. There's also programs that might be exempt from licensing that might be eligible to have a voucher agreement. Those programs need to work with EEC to ensure that all the background checks are done by EEC, and there are some other requirements through EEC. And once you complete those with the Department of Early Education and Care, the program can then receive what's called a funded program certificate. And that basically allows you to receive funding from the CCR&Rs for children that are on vouchers. And then those programs have to complete all of the same paperwork that I just talked about with regards to licensed programs. When it comes to billing, each provider is going to bill one time per month, and you're billing for the previous month's service. So programs right now in December are billing us for the month of November. So basically, you're getting reimbursed for care that you've already provided. There's 2 billing windows each month, but providers can only bill in one of those windows. So if you can get, you're really quick and you can get your submission into us by the 9th of each month, you'd be in window 1, and then you'll get paid earlier in the month. If you can't get your billing in by the 9th of each month, you'd be in what we call window 2, and that's for submissions received after the 9th, but before the 20th of each month. Once we receive everything, so if we receive on the 9th or the 20th, we actually submit to EEC the next day, the next business day. EEC then goes through and processes the billing, and they make very large payments to all 6 child care resource and referral agencies. And once the payments are received by the R&Rs, provider payments are made. It's a really high percentage of direct deposit payments at this point. If you were talking to me 10 years ago, it would have been probably almost all paper checks, which certainly delays providers getting their money. So the money does get to providers pretty quickly from the time that EEC gets the money to the CCR&Rs. When I talked with my colleagues on Monday about this presentation, we were a little skeptical of putting this last bullet in, but we wanted to give you at least a sense of when the payments are usually received by providers. And typically, you should receive your payment within a week of when we submit our billing to EEC. That doesn't always happen. There's sometimes, especially end of the fiscal year, there's sometimes some glitches, and it could be a little delayed beyond that. But typically, it's within a week of when we submit. So if you're really fast and you get your billing in on the 1st or 2nd of the month, remember that we're not submitting until the 10th of the month, and the payment would be within a week of our submission, not within a week of the submission of the provider. So we also wanted to hit on by being willing to accept, you're willing to accept a child on a voucher, that by signing a voucher agreement, you are agreeing that you're willing to accept a child or children on a child care voucher. And one of our responsibilities is, especially with the new C3 requirements, is if we have notification that providers are not accepting children on vouchers, we do have to report that into EEC. And that could be something that would affect your C3 standing. And then wait list. So there's over 31,000 children on the wait list right now. There is immediate funding for families who are receiving open cash through DTA, or who have had open cash within the last 24 months, or families who have an open DCF case for their children, or who have had an open DCF case within the last 24 months. Those 2 silos of children, DTA and DCF funded, they're accessing care at higher rates than ever. I know we're up around 68,000 children total in the state that are being paid for by financial assistance. Unheard of high number. It's just it's super to have that many children funded and paid for by the state. But there's 31,000 plus children on the wait list, and these are families who are income eligible. They're working, they're going to school, they do not get DTA, they do not receive DCF in their household. And these are folks who are sitting on that wait list that has essentially been frozen since January of 24. So we're coming up on 2 years. although contracted providers are still going to the wait list and may pull a child off the wait list if they have an opening. When contracted providers are pulling children, they're looking at typically a specific age. Maybe I need a toddler. Maybe I need that toddler in my programs in Cambridge. So they're looking for a specific child to fill that slot versus the vouchers that we start at the top of the list and just work our way through the wait list. There is also availability for childcare vouchers if somebody's looking for continuity of care. Continuity of care definition right now is for siblings. So if there's a school-age child, maybe that didn't need care during the school year, but it's now summertime and they've got a younger child who's in care, that school-age child may end up eligible for some summer camp care or non-school days or after school. Also, if a family has a new child, has a baby, that child would be eligible to come on to the voucher at this time. And then just to close, and we'll get the presentation to Amy and Marissa so y'all will have it, but we've just listed all the program directors and all of the different programs so you'll know exactly who to contact if you're looking for an orientation. And that's all we have for the presentation. I think
Thank
Kelly
you.
and Corinne might have been looking at chat.
They have been masters of the chat. It's been really great to see all the responses there. And um, so we do have a couple questions that I think it would be helpful to clarify here. So the what Kim is presenting today is how to get a voucher agreement, which yes, Amorous is different than what programs are required to do as part of their November recertification for C3. So for C3 this year, all that programs were required to do was to sign the attestation on the C3 application, which signifies their willingness to accept childcare financial assistance. That is not the same as signing a voucher agreement. This would sort of be the next step in that process where after signing that attestation, Kim has noticed that a lot of programs are reaching out and sort of proactively wanting to establish a relationship with their local CCR&R and sign a voucher agreement in anticipation of eventually having a family reach out and ask for services at their program. So no, it is not a requirement of C3, but it is a really great idea, which is part of the reason why we were really excited about Kim and the rest of the CCR&R network joining the call today and sort of sharing what this process looks like for folks and sort of making it clear that, you know, this is how you are able to get a voucher agreement. Kim, is there anything else you would add there?
Only that EEC is in the works of working with our network about getting a notification to us about programs who are signing the attestation. And we're really hoping that we're going to be able to work out a system with EEC so that we can do some outreach to programs that are going to sign the attestation, sort of ahead of a family coming to you, get that voucher agreement in place. Because what's going to happen is we're going to give your name out as a program who's attesting that you'll accept a voucher. Now the family's going to come to you. You guys are going to like each other. The kids want to start soon. And lo and behold, there's no voucher agreement in place. Now we have to do that whole process before the child can start. So we're going to try to proactively reach out to as many folks as we possibly can to get those provider agreements in place sooner rather than later.
Awesome. And then I saw Kathy just had a question. Kathy's had a couple of really good questions in the chat about some of the specific forms that you have to sign as part of the voucher agreement and what that means. So just would encourage everyone to take a look at that. But you know, related to how many closure days are you allowed to have for a voucher agreement? And Kelly, I saw you give an answer there too about that it's essentially all of the holidays plus professional development days. And I did some quick Googling or quick searching through my email and found the new policy, which I believe is 27 approved closure days per fiscal year. And then you also just had a question around, are there any additional requirements related to when you accept a voucher agreement? Is there anything else that you have to do? So is there anything you would say in addition to that piece, Kim? Kelly added that it was, nope, it's just managing the vouchers, knowing when they end, understanding if you allow a child in care after it ends, that there's no guarantee of payment, and then obviously managing sort of the billing process is part of that.
And I think Kelly's 100% right on that. One of the biggest ways people get a little in trouble is not knowing when the vouchers are ending. And if a parent's not on top of it and the provider doesn't know that end date, then we'll get calls saying, oh, Johnny's been attending, but the voucher ended 2 weeks ago. And that family now has to schedule an appointment and they have to renew their voucher. And there's typically a gap in service where a provider doesn't get paid. Providers don't get paid, that's not good. If parents can't send their children to care because they don't have a voucher in place, that's not good. So a lot of providers have, tickler systems or some way that they manage their end dates so that they're giving reminders. Parents get a reminder from the R&Rs 60 days ahead of their end date, but oftentimes that gets forgotten, or they're going to call next week and then they forget to call. And so it does happen every once in a while that we have folks whose vouchers end and they didn't realize it. So for providers to really be on top of that is enormously helpful.
That's great. There were some requests for translation of these slides. I think that we know that there's a number of educators that speak, whether it's Portuguese or Spanish or other languages in Massachusetts. I saw that Somerville was also really interested in this. So, and then Kelly, again, thank you for being willing to kickstart some of that. So if you all are willing to do that, I think we'd be happy to put it on the 9:30 call follow-up materials folder as well. And then Anna Teresa had a good suggestion too. I think this applies to family child care and center-based programs. Just, it's sort of best practices in general, but understanding best business practices and how you manage billing and all of these pieces, it's a complicated process. And I think, Kim, you did a really great job kind of laying out how billing works and sending in the reimbursement requests to you, and then you have to send it to EEC and having it all received. So I do think that's a really good suggestion. Just, how can we support people who are sort of doing the administration of programs in understanding best business practices, whether it's family child care or center-based programs. So I just wanted to call that out as well.
I think we would all very much support that as well.
Yeah. All right.
And I noticed there was a question about translating these into Portuguese, and we can definitely try to make that happen on my end. We have somebody that could possibly do that and get that over to you as well, Marissa. And I can tell you for Central and Western Massachusetts, we do offer the orientations in Portuguese. And definitely, if you're looking for a different language, reach out to your R&R to see if there might be that capability.
Amazing. And Edna, I'd love to just read your message here, because I do think that this is exactly what we were hoping would happen today. That you shared that, you joined a little bit late, you're going to look at the slides, but even though you currently do not have any children with vouchers in your program, having this conversation, hearing from a reliable source like Kim, it's really helpful for you to understand the whole process. So that is exactly what I think we wanted to get out of today. We'll have this recording and share it on our YouTube channel so that you all can share it with your networks. And then anytime anyone has a question about what to do next and how to reach out to their CCR&R and get a voucher agreement, that we can share this presentation from Kim with them.
The only other thing, Marissa, that I want to make sure that people are aware of is when parents come in to get the voucher from the R&R, they are assigned a parent fee. The parent fee might be zero, but we go through the family income and we determine what portion of the rate the parent pays. If the parent has, and I think we talked about at the beginning that infant rate, if it's $105 a day and the parent has a fee of $5 a day, your reimbursement from us is only going to be $100, and the parent would pay the $5 directly to the program. If the parent fee is zero, then the reimbursement amount is the full amount from the CCR&R.
That's really helpful too. Kim, can you say a little bit about, I think there's some misinformation or just confusion around what it means to be willing to accept a child with a voucher. Are programs required to sort of like hold spaces and leave them open for children? How do you see that happening?
That nobody's required to hold any space. And, not inclusive of the C3 situation. We would always tell providers that, it's a provider's choice whether you're going to accept a child or not accept a child. However, I will defer to EEC with regards to the C3 portion of this, because if providers are refusing to take a voucher child for some reason, that may be something that you're going to need to work directly with EEC around because it's part of the C3 grant. But nobody is expected to hold spaces or keep open spots or have a certain number of vouchers at any time.
Yep. Okay. So just to clarify, that's, refusing to accept a child when you have an open spot already, but you're not required to keep any open spots.
Correct.
Okay, that's really helpful. And then, so Edna, I think your question, I mean, it applies again to every kind of childcare program too, but you say, what will happen if the parent doesn't pay their share of the parent fee? What can the provider do? And, I think that that is something that, that all programs, have to encounter at different times. And I see Corinne put in there that you can terminate a family for non-payment is one of the potential um, next steps there.
Yep.
All right. I'm curious. I see in the chat too, Corinne also said make sure that you contact your R&R and update your provider profile in the database with current vacancies. I am curious if I know this is unprecedented, we have all the CCR&Rs on the call. So maybe if you all can put your contact information in the chat and where you are, sort of which region you are in the state, then people can kind of see a record of that piece. And just really want to thank you all for joining today and for sharing a little bit about this process. I think that, like Edna said, it's part of the difficulty here is that it is unknown to a lot of people. It's a new part of the system that they never have been a part of before. And so hearing from you all, kind of connecting a face to a name, understanding what the process looks like and how to, how to attend that first orientation and then eventually get a voucher agreement is a really great next step. So really want to thank you all for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Kim. All right, I'll leave it open for a minute just so you all can add that info in the chat. Otherwise, everyone have a great day and we'll see you tomorrow.